Yes, we are live. Welcome, ladies. Hello. My name is Taylor Thompson, and we are live here in the She Network, where we are sharing her excellence. And I want to welcome everybody on. As you guys are coming on, let me know you're here. Let me know your name. And right at the top, you'll see it says StreamYard. There's a little link there that gives you permission to say so it shows your name, so we know who you are. Otherwise, I just see Facebook user. So any comments that you make for Mindee, I want her to be able to see who's making it so we can celebrate with her. So I want to welcome everybody on. So we got a live interview with my beautiful friend, Miss Mindee Rosen. Mindee, how are you today?
I'm doing amazing, Taylor, and I'm so honored and blessed and grateful that you invited me on to share and to pour into your community.
Oh, well, I'm so excited. Well, I mean, like, I have to tell you, so whenever I always try to remember, like, where I had my first encounter with, and my first encounter, it was actually at Rank Makers with Ray. And so whenever we were out, we were right by the sushi and the steakhouse. You were coming inside and we were introduced to each other. And I just fell in love with your energy. You were just like this little dynamo, bubbly, like burst of energy. And so that just resonated with me and it clicked with me. And so I was so excited to be able to share what I was doing. And because you clicked with that, you got excited. I'm like, I can't wait to have her on and share her story. So I just so appreciate you taking out time to be here. Love it.
You're so welcome.
So, all right. Well, so ladies, Mindee is here to share her journey with us. And so many times we were just actually talking about this before we came on, and we were talking about the importance of like your stories. And, we look at people and we see them on social media and we see where they are. And we sometimes go, wow, I mean, like, she's an overnight success, wow, I wish I had her life, and we kind of start asking and going through those things in our mind. But Mindee, like, let's talk about this because, it's not overnight success. There was many tears on the pillow. There's many, many things to evaluate, that we go through to get to the top, so to speak. And so I want to talk about that today. I want you to share the stuff that you don't share from the stage, that you don't share, that these ladies may not have heard this part about you. And so they can connect with you and hear about what made you who you are today. Let's talk about it.
I'm really grateful to be able to share where it all started because, throughout this journey, it's not what it appears to look like right now. We all have a starting point. And, to back up to almost 6 years ago, I, had never, ever been in this industry. This amazing industry that has now changed my life. My life looked so much different. I was in corporate America. I had been for many, many, many years, and basically in, 2 jobs. One in event marketing right out of college, and then I transitioned and I became a medical sales specialist. And, really over the years, over 16 years, I had the opportunity to have extraordinary, extraordinary success. And, one of my favorite quotes, which I'll share with you later, which I now realize, how that all plays out, is that, I had a pivotal point in my life where everything changed. And it was then that I really realized about my true potential and a gift that this amazing industry has blessed me with. Because, people could look at what I'm doing on social media and say, I want that. But when I back up 6 years ago, I was at the deepest, darkest place in my life. I had to step away from something that I had enormous success, and where I was in the top 1 or 3%, and I just had a injury that happened, and I needed to walk away from it all. And
well, let's talk about that. I mean, like, what kind, I mean, like, you know, you definitely, I mean, like, we're diving deep here. Like, I want to know what kind of corporate America, what kind of injury? You got my curiosity piqued for sure. Let's dive
I
in.
was a medical sales specialist, and when I started, I was in primary care, and I quickly was able to rise through and become a specialty rep. I called on every single subset of doctors, no matter what it was. And throughout my tenure in medical sales, I, absolutely loved what I did. Not one single day was the same. I was in the top one. If I wasn't in the top 1%, I was in the top 3%. I won trips, and I won Rookie of the Year and Rep of the Year. And I just was able to make these incredible relationships, that still carry on now into what I'm currently doing. But, when all that happened, I didn't realize how that was going to translate into what my life looked like at that point.
So were you raised, I mean, is that how you were raised? Were you raised to be like a outgoing salesperson, go for it, or was that just kind of naturally your personality? Are you naturally a competitive kind of person? I mean, how were you raised?
Looking back at my life, yeah, I was extremely competitive. At the age of 12, was a very, very amazing gymnast. And that's another part of my story, is that, it got to the point where I rose up at being a gymnast. And it was something that I recognized, not knowing personal development, not knowing how being that competitive in a sport could affect you emotionally, mentally, and going into a gym 6 hours a day and having to be weighed and having to have this fear if you gained a half a pound. And at that point, I knew something was going on, and if I didn't walk away from that sport, I was going to wind up with an eating disorder. I just wanted to go to high school, and I wanted to have a life where I could be with my friends and just be involved in high school and not spend 6 hours in a gym. But looking back, Taylor, that's where it all began for me. That's where I got that competitive edge, is that, if you were on a floor routine, that you were going to knock it out, and that you were going to show up and be the best version of you. I think we froze. Oh, no. Hello? I believe we lost Taylor. I'm messaging her now to see what we can do to rectify this. Oh, there you are. I was just messaging you.
I'm so sorry. It's just this crazy internet. Okay. So I want to go back, because where you left off, where I dropped off, you were talking about being a gymnast, and whenever you were talking about, like, that's where you realized it all started. I want to tap into that, because there's so many times that we think about, like, our upbringing and the things that we learned. You had because Larry and I, we call it the 5 leadership selves, and it's there is there's a self-discipline. There's a self-responsibility. There's a self-motivation. There's a self-determination. Those selves that you were developing as an independent athlete like that, because there was a lot of disciplines involved that you learned about leadership, right? That you were able to transfer into your next opportunity, right? And I really think this is really important, because so many times, and especially we'll get into this a little bit, but I really want to tap into that, because we forget we have these things already. We're already equipped with these things. And whenever you start thinking about business, it's so easy to take those self-leaderships and transfer it into what you're currently doing. And you did that, right? So anyway, I didn't want to interrupt, but being a gymnast is a very, very challenging sport. But I can see as a teenager, you're wanting to like not be tied down to something like that. That would make complete sense to me.
Taylor, being, like I said, and reflecting back, let me just shut this for a second, because we have kids here, 2 kids that are just roaming around the house. We're all working in all different areas of the house, which is amazing, because it's been a blessing in this time and era that we're experiencing to have everybody at home. So we're juggling workspace. But yeah, looking back and reflecting upon that time, that now I know is such a huge part of my story, because it's multifaceted. And that is really what instilled in me that ultimate belief that, and that work ethic and that drive. But, it's now later that I can put together all those pieces and understand that was my evolution.
Yeah. So, okay. So now you're like, so did you get married out of high school? Did you go to college? Like what transpired? Did you marry your high school sweetheart? Tell us about that.
Yeah. You asked the question, in regards to, what played out next. And, I went, my parents, as much as, growing up in my house, and I think women need to hear this, that your past never, ever defines you. And growing up, I had 2 extremely loving parents, and they were amazing, but very, very different. And my house growing up was extremely dysfunctional. My parents had this very unique and obscure relationship. And, although I came from an extremely loving house, and I know that they both loved me, it was always instilled in me, one, that I needed to go to college. Like, it wasn't an option for my brother or myself.
Mm-hmm.
And next, it was that even though, and, it was many years later that I was able to put the pieces together, was that even though they were dysfunctional, both of them, instilled in me what it took to rise up. And, it was just an evolution of how I had grown throughout life, because, life started to hit me when I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had, the most difficult thing that anybody wants to ever experience in life happen to you. But at that point, I still didn't understand that. My favorite quote, maybe everybody needs to hear it now, is that life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. Yeah. And I'm so incredibly grateful and blessed, I'm going to start to cry, is that, I have had the opportunity and the blessings of being trained and mentored by, the incredible Tony Robbins, and being a part of his community, and being, having the opportunity to meet him twice. And I now know that everything that has happened throughout my whole life, that I can now understand that it was really happening for me, whether it was walking away from a sport that, had I continued, I might have been able to go and potentially go, who knows, to the Olympics, whether it was growing through what I experienced in my household, which was dysfunctional. Like, it's not normal for people to fight all the time.
Well, and I'm going to add to this too, like, I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if there's really a family that's really normal. I mean, the more I know people, the more I talk to people, the more I know, like, I think that we all grow up in some sort of dysfunction, and we learn how to function through it, right? We learn how to navigate through the dysfunction. I don't know that there's any family, that has it all together, that there's some level of lack of communication or arguing or I just don't know that there's a such thing exist. But I think that it just makes us stronger in the who and how we learn how to respond and how.
I absolutely agree with you. And like I said, back then, and it wasn't really until, again, life happened to me twice or three times maybe that I understood that that was all a part of my patterns. That was all a part of my growth. That was all a part of me stepping in to who I was going to become throughout my corporate career or what I'm experiencing now. But guys, I got to reiterate, it didn't always happen that way. Life wasn't easy.
So so tell us what happened in college that was a game changer.
Unimaginable. Like, I went to college and I had an amazing freshman year. And then the beginning of my sophomore year, not soon after we went back to college, I met who is now my husband of many, many years later. We met at a fraternity bonfire. And from the night we met, we've been together ever since.
Wow.
But yet, a couple months into my sophomore year, the unimaginable would happen. And I got a phone call that my father was rushed to the hospital. And a couple hours later, I learned that he had passed away.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And he was my best friend. He was the person that instilled, besides my grandmother, this relentless ability to get back up. He's the person that heard me when I said, Dad, I need to step away from the sport of gymnastics, because if not, and at that point, I didn't know that I would soon or later, develop an eating disorder or had an eating disorder. But he's the one that constantly made me realize that, I was worthy, that I was important, that I was amazing. And to get that phone call, life just shook me.
Yeah.
And it was just a point in my life where things really just hit me like there was a rock that just threw at me. And I didn't know. That's the first time that I really realized that no matter how life hits you, you have to get back up and you have to pivot.
Yeah. I'm so sorry to hear that. I mean, and especially for somebody that was so foundational to you, that was such a rock of confidence, and obviously you're a fan and supporter, right? Sometimes we don't always have those kind of people in our life, and whenever they're there and then all of a sudden they're not, did you feel a little lost? I would suspect.
Oh, I felt so lost. I was scared. I had fear. I didn't know how I was going to pay for the rest of college. He
was the breadwinner. He was the sole surprise. Was he the?
That's interesting, Taylor, because both my parents were business owners, but yet my mother really leaned towards my father for a lot of things. And that's something, a clear distinction now that I'm able to train women on, is that, you've got to go all in, and you've got to be a business owner. And if you're running a business, then you've got to treat it like a business. And growing up, I didn't see that in my mother, but yet here life happened to me at that point. And, I didn't know how I was going to pay for the rest of college. I had no idea. I just knew that I had to do it. Like, I had started down a path. I had already been a year and a half into college. I was doing really well, and I needed to figure out a way.
Yeah.
And
So now your husband now, or your boyfriend at that time, like, did you transfer that thing, that relationship that you had with your dad to him? I mean, that would be a natural, for most women, if you're close to your dad, that would be the natural thing to do. Did you do that? Did you find yourself doing that?
That's a great question. Now looking back, perhaps I did, but what was more important was that he was just there for me. You know, we were both so young. We were still kids when we met. Is that he was there to support me. And, you know, we were so young, but he was there to, you know, in essence, cheer me on, that no matter what I was going to do, that I was going to get through it. And if not, that we'd figure out a way. And,
Yeah.
you know, both of us, I mean, we were looking back, I mean, we were eating ramen noodles if we had to, or fishing off a deck to eat at that point, you know, because we had gotten a summer house that, you know, with some of my sorority sisters and his fraternity brothers, we were fishing off a deck to eat, you know, that summer. But yet he had that unwavering belief that I was going to be able to pull through and I was going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that at that point he's the one that really made me step in and know that I was going to be able to do it.
So, so make sure you like scoot to your left, because I don't want you to get out of my screen. Okay, perfect. So, but essentially he kind of did feel your dad's, because it seems to me like what you're saying is that's who your dad was to you, was your fan, was your cheerleader, was your encourager, was your confidence, became your rock. It almost seems like he not maybe knowingly, but essentially kind of stepped into those shoes and helped support you. That's what I hear. I don't know if that's the truth. That's just what I hear in the story. So I find it interesting.
He was definitely a big part of it. And then my grandmother was also the other big part of it. And she just, you know, had always been my cheerleader. She had always been the one to tell me that no matter what was happening in life, that, you know, there was an underlying reason.
Yeah.
And that, you know, even though, you know, when I look back now, I was never trained on personal development. I was never trained on all the tools I use now or how I help teach other people. But at that point, it was those two people that made me resilient. And no matter how I had fallen, they made me get up.
I love that. So let's fast forward here. So let's talk about so you're navigating yourself through school. You obviously graduate now. Were you married before you got out of college, or was it afterwards?
No, we had dated for 10 years. And it wasn't until like 9.5 years in that I'm like, okay, we need to make this thing happen. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And, you know, at that point, after we both kind of got set in our careers and in our endeavors, that my husband's a big believer in financial security and just, you know, building up wealth. And he still, to this day, keeps, as much as I sharpen my skills, he sharpens his skills. And he just didn't want to jump into something until he knew that he was through school, through graduate school, through the ability to be able to support me and or support us and grow something that would now be an amazing family, you know, two amazing boys, that we were ready to take that leap to get married.
So he sounds like a green to me. Is he a green? Yeah. Okay. So you're now in your pharmaceutical sales. This is your career. This is your job. So take us through this and what happens next in this journey. That
it was an incredible ride. Like, I mean, throughout my whole tenure in medicine, I just had the ability to continually learn, to continually to be mentored by some of the best. And, you know, it wasn't that, you know, looking back on that, it didn't happen because it happened because I was I was absolutely relentless in the pursuit of being competitive, of being number one, of being able to step up to others and be able to show them a way that in their networks, no matter what industry I was sharing in, or at times when I had jumped into management for a little bit, or when I pivoted and I went into medical device sales and got to be in the OR, it was a matter of back then just really being coachable and have this willingness to learn. And
so this, okay, so there's certainly a pattern here, and I'm going to pick up on this too. So because Larry and I, we always teach that to have success in network marketing for sure, or anything, there has to be three things. There has to be a burning desire, there has to be a willingness to do the work, and there has to be a teachability or a coachability that goes with those, because those are things that you can't teach. It's something that comes from within, right? And so I'm looking at the pattern of from being a gymnast and taking those skills, right? The leadership skills, those self-responsibilities, those skills, that self-determination, motivation, taking it through school. I got to get through school. I gotta make this happen. You transferred those skills into becoming a college graduate, right?
yes,
You take those same skills that got you through school and you transfer that into a profession, right? And quite successful at it at every level. And you have this desire to grow. You have the desire to do more. You have this desire to become more, right? All of those things inside of that, what you, with the life pattern, right? And so, I share that, and I keep pointing this out because as women, especially, and we'll talk about like network marketing in particular. So many times women especially go, oh, I'm not good enough. I can't do that. I don't have it. Ladies, I'm telling you, this is why I built this network. This is the deal. Each one of you have what it takes. You're already equipped with a set of those skills. You've just got to learn how to transfer it over. So we can talk about that even more, but so what happens? So you're at the high peak of your profession. Then what happens?
Again, it was just life coming at me. And at that point, not really knowing that it was happening for me. And I unfortunately had a self-inflicted injury. I had slipped on black ice in front of one of my hospitals, and that was the start of it, and I kind of worked through that. But then I have a gym in my house, and I was on my elliptical, and I fell off. Actually, it was my treadmill. I fell off backwards, and at that point, I just knew something was really, really wrong. And that was the point that my life really has changed forever, as I sustained an injury that I required major surgery. And I needed to walk away from everything that I had built in my life.
What exactly happened? I mean, like, what happened? Was it your back?
It was my back. So I had damaged my back, and 3 discs were really, each one of them had a different issue. And at that point, I needed to step away from what I had been doing for 16 years and, had an amazing career, amazing run. And I want to preface this at this point, Taylor, is that at that point, there were a few little exposures into network marketing, but I still nobody had ever come and shared this huge vision of what it was or what it could do for you, or the power of residual income, or any of that. And it was after all of what had happened, and I had a fusion, which is a pretty major surgery.
Yeah.
And that had become really the darkest point in my life, because I was thrown in to becoming, and not that I don't love my children, they're amazing. They are my why. But I've been thrown into, not knowing what my life was going to look like going forward.
Well, and so here's the thing, and I find this to be true with a lot of women too, is that they don't really know themselves. They lose their identity in being someone's wife, someone's mom, or, so and so title at this corporation, or in what they do and not their who. And and for somebody that's driven like you to say, okay, all of that's gone, that's no longer what you do anymore. You've got to be still, right? As the scripture says, be still, right? And that's hard for the type A red personality, go, 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 to sit and be still and to have that rug pulled out from under you. That's got to affect that's got to have a major impact on how you see you.
Like I said, it was at that point the deepest, darkest point in my life, because although, like I said, I love being a mom, I always, and now it's my deepest desire to help other women that were in my situation, is that, I just was thrown into this world, and I of going in and getting very active in my children's lives in elementary school, and volunteering in the PTO and stepping up and running different things. I felt like my whole identity was robbed. I felt like this is where one limiting belief started, and it really took me a year to work through. When I found this amazing profession, I had my own limiting belief of what I had being taken out under me, because, things had just happened. And like I said, it was great to go in and be the PTO mom and to run walkathons and raise a lot of money for the school. But I always had that drive and the desire to help other people. And now I realize it's all about fulfillment and contribution and about giving back, because the more you give, the more that comes back to you in abundance. But at that point, I still didn't know that, because, like I said, throughout, my life, I wasn't exposed to reading I read great books, but not the kind of books that you read here, or the kind of tools and resources that you tap into to become the one that your results require. It wasn't until that point when life happened for me that I began to understand that whole paradigm.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think we all come out. We all start having some sort of, no matter what the path. We all we indoctrinate, or we adopt self-limiting beliefs by different patterns or different things that happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
Not recognizing it's for us. That's such a great phrase. So how did you, so now you're on this path. So how were you introduced? Was it a friend? Was it by accident? Were you looking? Was it something that you wanted to be, that somebody invited you to start the product, or, or were they say you need to look the opportunity? Sometimes it's both. How were you approached?
It was totally a random accident. Both my sons at that point were involved in soccer, and I had seen one of the dads that doesn't live far from me walking across the stage on Facebook, and I'm like, what is he doing? I'm like, I wonder if I could get involved and do what he's doing. And I picked up the phone and I called him.
Wait. I gotta ask this question. Because if I'm right about this, this is gonna be interesting. So were you asking that question, walking across the stage, because do you like recognition? I mean, what was it, the stage that you were attracted to, that you saw something, you're like, oh, stage? Because I will say that there's a lot of people that get involved in what we do because they don't care about the money. They like the recognition piece of it. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it's part of who they are. What makes them drive? It's their drive. But I'm just asking.
God, you're asking such great questions. You're blowing me away, Taylor. I've never thought about that question, but looking back now, it was just like, yeah, I guess a big part of it is that I have always liked that acknowledgement that when I work hard, I'm going to be recognized for my efforts. And
okay, Mindee, it makes total sense. I mean, you can't be a gymnast because it's not a team sport. It's an individual sport. So there's got to be a part of you that's driven because there's the payoff of the acknowledgement, right? There's a pattern of this driven because it gets me, I get this, and I'm fulfilled whenever this happens. And so it just makes sense that this would be part of the pattern, that the stage attracted you. And I point that out because there's so many times that people go, oh, they don't want to talk about the money, or they don't want to talk about the product. But this is like a whole different paradigm of why people get involved, because they like community, they like recognition, and they will do things for recognition that they wouldn't do for money. So this is great conversation here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, and like I said, these are great questions because they're not questions that ever made me go back and reflect on how this journey evolved. And yeah, when I saw it, I picked up the phone and I'm like, hey, Vinny, what are you doing? This is a soccer dad that lives a mile from me. And he, called me back and he's like, hey, can I come over and share? And back then, even though it was only 6 years ago, I was still kind of, I really didn't know network marketing. Maybe, I look back now and a couple times maybe in passing it was shared, but my head was down and I was so focused when I was in medical sales. Like I just had no time for anything else. And, when I saw that, I'm like, and I questioned in my head, is that something with my limitations now that I could do, even though I'm healing?
Yeah.
Came over and, that's how I got involved in this incredible industry that's changed my life.
So did you get off? So did you jump in immediately? Did you just start on the product first? Did you have to believe in the product? I mean, these are all the questions that people want to know.
For me, my husband was actually here with me. I can remember it vividly. We were sitting in my kitchen. He came over and he's pretty good at what he does. And he just said, let me, make you a shake. And he mixed up a shake in my blender. We both tasted the product. My husband is somebody that, and at the surface level, he's just always one that he loves the concept, whether it's him being involved in the stock market or, him being involved in helping other people and doing what he does. He heard something differently than, what we both have done. He heard the concept of a different form of residual income and how that could be so impactful in your life. And we both tried the product and we jumped in and, we each took a spot, and that's how it all began.
That's part of the journey. But I mean, like, so you started the journey, so was it something that you did together, or were you doing it solely just yourself?
In the beginning, we both jumped in, and then my husband realized that this wasn't really his forte. This wasn't really his passion to be sharing an opportunity or a product that way. Right. He is much more the introvert. I'm much more the extrovert. Right. And, he just allowed me to jump in and get involved with this journey and this ride. And
so I want to point this out because I think this is so, first of all, like, kudos to, what's your husband's name?
His name is Ron.
Ron?
Yes.
Kudos to Ron, okay? Ron Rosen, you rock. I will say this because, I always want to acknowledge husbands that even if they're not doing the business with you, if they support you and they encourage you, they are doing the business and they're an integral part of what you do. Because to have that kind of support at home, whether they're involved or not, just being supportive and encouraging, they play such a major role in business, because we have so many women in our space that don't have that kind of support. They don't have that kind of encouragement. They're not, they don't have that kind of spouse, you know, cheering them on at home. And they have to do that. They have to build and grow their business in spite of. And so I want to just, you know, hats off to all the Rosens, husbands of this space. Like, woo woo. Yeah. I mean, I love it. I love it. So you'll have to tell him that I said so. Because I never want to overlook them in any way. And so I say kudos to him. So what do you attribute getting you off to such a fast start and growing your business so quickly to the level that it's been? What do you attribute that to?
Well, you know, when I first jumped in, as much as I was very skilled in sales, as much as I was very skilled in business acumen, when I first jumped in, I didn't realize how much of what I had done in the past really would attribute, as time went on, to my future success.
Right.
And when, you know, I jumped in and my husband supported me, I can remember the days sitting in this office, and I can remember, you know, reaching out and exposing people and, you know, sharing the passion that I saw. And tell her, to be dead honest, I can remember that people in the beginning, they just didn't see it. And, you know, in the beginning, that took me aback a little bit, because I was so used to, you know, in a different industry, people, doctors, you know, nurses, you know, hospital administrators being so open to the message I was sharing.
Right.
And when I first got into this, it was kind of like I would take my contacts, and I still have my little black box right here. And I remember in the beginning, it would make me step back because people were rejecting me. And I didn't understand that philosophy in the beginning.
So let's talk about that right there, because, you know, I mean, I always say, to be a networker, it's not for the faint of heart by any stretch of the imagination. And, you know, and a lot of times I think that what you just said blows a lot of people out of the business, because they take it personally. They take that rejection factor personally. And so they start questioning, am I good enough? Is this for me? You know, is there something wrong with me? Maybe I just don't know enough. Maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe I'm just not smart enough, right? So they go through all the self-doubt processes. And, you know, I think that's really, I mean, I know personally that you got through that because you had a different mindset. You know, you took those skills that you learned in gymnastics
Mm-hmm.
through college, those set of skills, and you transferred them over here. And there's no question in my mind that you made that transfer, and very well. And so I love that. Because this piece right here, if more women, and I'll say men too, but especially women, you know, understood that that's just part of the business, and there's nothing wrong with you, and you're not doing anything wrong. It's just the way it is. I mean, I remember my mentor, you know, whenever I was getting no's, and I was really like, you know, going through those processes. I'm like, maybe I'm just not good enough, you know. And I just remember her saying to me, because, you know, Herbalife was she's like, welcome to Herbalife. And that's whenever I knew, oh, this happens to everybody. This is normal. And it was such a simple phrase, but it was the thing that said, oh, I'm normal. This is normal. I'm good enough. and I got through it, and I pushed through that barrier. So, is that what you did? Is that how you handled it?
Yeah, and before I elaborate on that, I want anybody to know that is watching live, or if you watch this on replay, that if that's part of your process, if that's part of what you're going through right now, know that you are enough, and know that you are one step away from that one person that's going to say yes, that one person that is going to change the dynamics of what you're doing. And
Yeah.
don't quit, because had I not known that, and it was really subconscious, because there were a couple days in the beginning that I would take contacts, business cards, and somebody would say no. And I would push them away, and that would discourage me for 3 days. And then I'd fall down and I'd get back up, and I just realized I knew that I saw something differently, an opportunity. I wanted at that point, that was the beginning of my journey. I wanted other moms like me, other moms that, had gone through some of the things that I've gone through. I had to go through in vitro to have both my kids. I wanted the opportunity for other moms that perhaps, if they didn't want to put their kids in daycare anymore, that there was another way. And that's what made me get back up. That's what made me pick up the phone or reach out to that next person. And the first 6 months were tumultuous. Like, it wasn't easy, but I just kept getting up.
Well, and here's a great point. I mean, you're making a really great point here, because sometimes, I mean, and everything that you're saying, it's whenever you change the perspective, right? Because a lot of times what makes people discouraged is because they make it about themselves. But what I hear you saying is it wasn't about what you were feeling. It was about what you saw that it could afford someone else. And so whenever you change that perspective, it changes the dynamics. It changes your physiology, because you will do stuff easier for other people when you put them first than you will for yourself. And that's such a great point to make. Whenever you shift it, and not make whenever you share it about you, whether they join or don't join, whether they buy or don't buy, that you just did your job, because your job is the information giver, right? That's it. No more, no less. You just got to do your job every day. I love that. I love that part. I love that. That's so awesome.
Thank you. And then, it was like I went through that process for a really good, I want to say really almost a year, until I realized, like, I had to look back and reflect, like, what in my past really allowed me to create success, what in my past really allowed me to ascend, no matter what obstacles I faced throughout, since being out of college. And it was at that point that, I began to really entrench myself in personal development, be exposed to books like Think and Grow Rich, be exposed to, how to influence people. It was those things that, and although in the beginning mentors came to me through books, until I really realized that at that point, if I wanted to have the kind of success, if I wanted to generate the kind of life that I had had throughout my career, I needed to invest in myself.
Yes, that's so good. Such a great realization that sometimes there's a lot of people that don't go through that. They don't get that, right? So let's talk to the ladies that are listening right now, because if you were to hand them a gift, because we're going to talk about that, but like if you were for them to walk away with something today, what would you give them today that they could walk away with and maybe implement in their day, their business? What would you share with them?
Gosh, ladies, if you're listening in and if you watch this on replay, the thing that is most critical, the thing that has been crucial to my success, is that you need to pour into yourself. You need to fill your own cup. You need to invest an hour of power in yourself every single day, whether that be, I have a whole process, and I should have saved it on stories last week, but you need to do gratitude. You need to be writing down 10 things that you're grateful every day. 3 things that you are going to take action on, especially in these times that we're seeing. It could be, like me, I'm homeschooling my kids. I have my husband at working at home. So, set a goal of what you need to accomplish there and what you need to get done in your business. Be doing meditation. Like, Joe Dispenza is a great place to tap in and listen to meditation. You need to really take that time, read 10 pages of a book. But these are the things that are going to move you forward in your process. It's going to be what propels you to move and become what your results desire and help you and allow you to step into your own greatness.
Love that. I love that. So many little nuggets there. I love all of those. Such a great action piece. So, tell us, like, obviously the personal development, you talked about like your thing, life happens for you, not to you. Are there, like, the days, especially like, and you mentioned something just now, because we have so many moms here, and Mondays, I would call it Mom's Monday mindset, that we have here. And I have so many, women like you, like, that are dealing, like, have never been homeschool moms, right? And they are put into a situation, right, that they've never thought that they would have to be, the homeschool mom, and adjusting to that. What kind of tips would you give them today?
I think the most important thing, and, my children are a little bit older. They're 16 and 18. One we had to bring back from university in Arizona because they closed up, of course, and he's homeschooling here. And my other one is 16. But in addition to what I do in network marketing, I'm also a coach certified in 3 modalities. And the thing that I believe is most critical, and what I'm coaching women on all around the world, is that structure is so important for kids. So you need to keep them in a routine. You need to, make sure that they are getting up around the same time. Like, my son leaves at 7:00 in the morning, so I'm not going to require him to get up at 7:00 in the morning, but I do want him to get up. I do want him to start his day. I do want him to have breakfast. I want him online by a certain, time of the day. And what I have seen working in my household is that as long as you keep them on a routine and you have structure is so critical, whether it be for our children or whether it be for us as powerful women, and how we show up.
Yes, I love that. That's such a great piece. So, you talked about, your quote, you talked about your, like, meditation. You said your hour of power. So what kind of, do you have like a go-to book? Like, whenever you feel yourself like down, like going in the downward spiral, do you have a book that you use or go to, or is there something that you're reading right now that you would like to share with the ladies?
I have many favorite books, and I'm looking at my bookshelf. Is that I don't know that it's a particular book. I'd highly recommend that if anybody hasn't ever read Think and Grow Rich or How to Win Friends and Influence People, pick up. Yeah, there you go. Those are my 2 go-to favorites. For me, I have relied, I've been, like I said in the beginning, I've been so grateful and so blessed to be a part of the Tony Robbins community and to be tied in there in so many different capacities that whenever I find myself getting in a slump, and it happens for all of us, is that go to a resource, a tool that is going to be able to, bring you inspiration and motivation. Another thing is, turn on some music, because what I've learned, and it is so incredibly powerful, is that you can immediately, Tony taught me this, is that you can immediately change your state. And that happens by putting on some powerful music, and you can shake it out. So Courtney Epps was who we interviewed last. She said the same thing, because she's in Tony Robbins Platinum too. And we've talked about that so many times, like changing your physiology, changing,
moving, and the movement and with music can change this and changes everything. That's such a great piece of info too. So now you're going to be sharing with the ladies, because we're getting ready to launch this membership. I'm so excited. Finally, it's coming. Tell the ladies what you are going to be pouring into your excellence. What's going to be your excellence that you're going to be pouring into these ladies?
Taylor, I'm going to look for you. Like, what do you want me to bring to this community? I have a whole bunch of resources. Like, I'd love to hear from your community. Okay. What do they need? What type of resources? Where do you feel that you could use more resources so that you can step in and become the one that your results require? Like, I've got some ebooks. I've got some courses. I've got tools and resources. So let me know what you want me to pour in. I'd be more than happy to do anything. I absolutely love and adore you.
Oh, I love that. Okay, well, that's exciting. So we can play with a bunch of different stuff. So I love that. Okay, well, that's super exciting. Well, so as we get ready to sign off here, is there any last tips that you would like to share with the ladies? Because this has been such a great interview, such a great, so many little nuggets here. I hope that you guys, ladies, took some notes. It was amazing. So any last final words?
All I can say is, ladies, if you are finding it difficult at this point in time, and yes, we've all had to pivot. Yes, we've all had to change what we're doing, how we're working, how we are running our households, because that's what we do. We are powerful women. Don't get discouraged. Just know that each and every day is a blessing. It's a way that you can propel. And if one day you find that, you're off kilter, just remember that next day is the ability to get back up and rise up and share your greatness, and that your message matters.
Love that. I love it. Your message matters. Your story matters. Your mess is somebody else's message. And that's what I love about this community. That's what I love about the stories that come in here. And if you have any ladies, this community is where it's going to be open house for the next couple of weeks until we launch. If you have any ladies, please invite them in. Please tag them in some of these stories, these interviews that we've had, some of the trainings that we've had. And so, because whenever we get ready to launch, I'm going to be launching founding members. Like, each one of you have an opportunity to become a founding member of the She Network. Super excited about that. I can't wait to share that and what that entails. But share this with ladies that need this, that don't have that kind of environment, that don't have that kind of support that's around them, that need other women, and a tribe of women that they can be encouraged, that they can be edified, that they can feel empowered. And if any of you have been empowered by what we do, please, I'm finishing up the website. If you have any testimonials that you would like to share about what this group has meant to you, or anybody in particular, please share those with me, because I would love to be able to incorporate that with the website and the membership, and add your story, add your photo. Would love to be able to do that. So anyway, Mindee doll, thank you so much for taking time away from your family and your business to be here to pour into the ladies. Just appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Taylor. This was an honor and a privilege and a blessing. And I can't wait, as time goes forward, to pour into your community. I've shared with you personally that, out of the different communities that I'm in, out of the different groups, I just have a special place in my heart for this group, because everybody is here to inspire and motivate and pour into one another. And, as women, we all come into places, whether you want to break it. I break my life into maybe 7 different areas. And I've been able to come in here. And, if it is that difficult, I've been able to find that inspiration and that motivation. And I want everyone that is in here to be able to get that same thing. And if I've invited anybody here today to listen to this interview, start coming into this group and, start sharing. This is a safe community. Nobody is going to, judge you. And nobody is going to ever. This is a safe community where you can share openly and from the heart. So thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, Mindee. Thank you so much. And if you'll just hang on, I'll say bye to you privately. But ladies, thank you so much for being here today. This is Taylor and Mindee. We're here live at the She Network sharing her excellence. And so tell somebody you love them today. Tell somebody, encourage them today, and tell them that they're good enough, just like they are. So, adios, ladies. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye, everybody.